Hey everybody, Rudham here. Thanks for tuning in to episode 17 of Kerbal Space Program. So last episode I set up a goo container and then did a solar mission. On the next episode, the thing is, I'm pretty sure these missions are bugged. I tried looking them up. So I have to complete 50% of the goo observation, and I've completed 1,271% of it, and it's still not completed. I do have a deadline that allows me to keep trying this for a very, very, very long time. But my thinking is that these are actually functionally bugged, and I'm probably not going to be able to complete them unless a patch fixes it. So I will also try to do this on Minmus as well, but that doesn't necessarily mean it will work. So my next mission is to explore Minmus, which means that I have to transfer crew between two vessels near Minmus, and I do have this giant surface outpost that I need to land on Minmus. So the idea that I had was to send the outpost into the orbit of Minmus and then send another ship to rendezvous with it. All right. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and build the outpost, the surface outpost. So what it needs to do is it needs to support 16 Kerbals, which is a ridiculous amount. So this is 4 Kerbals each, so this is 12 so far. Oh my god, this is going to be a big ship. A very heavy one too. It needs a mobile research lab. Oh god, this is going to be a real big ship. It needs the top pod. Already, I think this is probably too wide of a base, so I'm going to have to redesign this right now. So let's go ahead and design a wider base for this. Oh boy. Okay, so the top pod is going to look something like... Let's do the MK2. Maybe MK3, just because it looks nicer. Or... Cupola module? No, let's not do that. It's heavy. Okay, we'll do the MK2, but we're going to do a fuel coupler thing with this. That's a really big adapter, though. Let's try to go into structural and get a slightly more reasonably sized, adapter. Maybe I don't have one. Okay, so for aesthetics, we'll do MK3. I'm going to get rid of the monopropellant that's in here. And then I am also going to put a clampetron docking port at the top. And an aerodynamics cone on top of that. Then for utility, let's see. We're going to want some giant solar panel arrays. Preferably not blocking... Well, we'll add those in later. If this is to be docked with, we're going to need some light. So let's go to utility and add 2 lights in there, making it easy to dock. So this is RHD 15, I think? Yes. I hope so. Else I just overwritten something. This thing's never coming home, so it doesn't need parachutes or anything like that. We are going to park it on Minmus. Alright. So, thinking about that, let's see. We are going to need a 4 copied. Now, I'm thinking of maybe having crew cabins here. Oh, they are not going to stick. Well, I wouldn't be able to do hitchhikers like that either, huh? Okay, let's see. We want them to be permanent, not decoupled. So let's have these nice and centered, like this. And then have... Oh, you know what I could do? This might be really cool. It also might be really heavy. How heavy are these hinges? Oh, they're not that massive. Okay, so if I have regular crew cabins, I'm going to try to line them up. Crew cabins are a little weird where the windows don't line up nicely, but whatever. Let's pretend. And then change the target angle. Haha, this is cool. Oh, man. Okay, so how much does that add? These are 2 apiece, so 2, 4, 6, 8, plus this is 10, plus the top is 13. Okay. But we need up to 16. So that brings us to 17. That'll have to do. Right. So this is what more or less is going to have to land. Now it also will need 1,500 units of monoprop fuel. So what I could do is just bring a whole lot of monoprop fuel and then just not use it. This tank has half of what we need in it. So that's a lot of monoprop fuel for reference. I mean, I need 2 of these massive tanks. God, this base is going to be ridiculous. It's gonna be really costly to get it there, is all I'm going to say. Alright, so if I won't need my monoprop fuel, let's do double. And let's make it ugly. Okay, I'm going to have smaller struts than that. Unless I can do hinges. Oh, robotics, I love you. There we go. That looks good, right? Maybe I can even do better hinges, like the alligator hinges with these. That'd be interesting. I don't know how heavy are these. They're pretty heavy. Let's try the slightly smaller hinges. And stick our... This is all about, like, weird design. Let's go back to structural. And set up the girders like this. And then the hinges like this. Alright. And then if we have target angles 90 degrees. Okay, that almost works, except for the fact that it's off center. Okay, so it is clipping in a little bit. I can fix that. We can either make these lower and then make these higher. If I could reach the clip. Oh god, this is so ugly. What I'm gonna do... Why do I need this much monoprop fuel? Why did I even accept this damn mission? I really should have checked closer. Alright, so other monoprop fuel that I could bring here is the side attached, like this. So what I could do is to have, again, ugly, but some sort of monopropped fuel like that. I don't know how much that adds. I'll have to check. It also blocks a lot of windows. So if I did 4 symmetrical, that should be a little bit more acceptable. Something along those lines. Except for that's off center. Oops. This is one weird looking craft. Okay, so if we save this and I launch it, I can then count pretty quick how much monoprop is in it. And then what I will do is just not have any use of monoprop. Basically, I'm just bringing it all there to bring it there. So this is 800 and 800 monoprop. So that's like almost half of the monoprop I am required. Okay. That's good to know. And then the last half, I could just stick this big old fuel tank down there. Drag these crew quarters down. And then we're all set. So this is this hideous monstrosity is what has to land. All right, I'll space these out a little bit. Cool. Sort of. I guess I could have looked at the. No, I don't have a fuel count. Okay, so this hideous monstrosity is what has to land. Neat. What else does it need? It needs got a research lab. I'll need a lot of liquid fuel on the outpost. So I'm gonna redesign that bit. It's showing that I'll need a hell of a lot of liquid fuel, so it's going to something like this. Apologies for the this is going to be somewhat of a lengthy build process, but you know, all serves the purpose and all. Okay, and let's go ahead and then strut this down. Or because that's going to have clipping problems as well. And if I did it like this, it would block. Well, it blocks the door to the mobile processing lab, but is that such a bad thing? I'm not sure. I could just slap it on like attached. That'd be alright. So this is 1440 times 6. Or times 4. So this is almost enough liquid fuel if all these tanks are full of what I have to land with. Just to give you a point of reference in how much fuel it would be. So my hitchhiker, I think what I'll do is move this up. Like that. Stick the girders. And pick a larger jumbo tank. So these have a lot of fuel in them. And then I gotta pick an engine to land on. Probably skippers. And that's plenty of thrust to weight and delta V and all that jazz. Alright. And I'm not actually blocking anything. Now below this section, I don't want my shuttle. I'm going to move this up a bit. I don't want it floating that high off the ground. Because below it all, I want my center of mass to be lower, and then below it all I'm going to also have the beautiful tanks. God, I'm really tempted to just do something ridiculous like that. I mean, it is my Martian base, right? How I'm ever going to dock with that docking port with giant nose cones like that, probably I will never. So let me just not include that. Okay. I'm still thinking. All right, so payload. Put the payload in here, line up the payload, open the service bay, and then in here we'll want all of our sciencey stuff and then all the cargo stuff because we'll probably land, or we'll definitely land in a new biome. I'll make a point of it. So let's do 2 standard goo, And then for cargo, we're also going to want 2 of these storage units. Like that. That doesn't look so bad. Thermometers. Barometers. I also have a mission. What is my scanning arm mission? No, I actually don't have the scanning arm mission. I thought I did. It must have disappeared. I either ran out of time to do it, which is highly unlikely, or something. I don't know what that something would be, but let's ignore the fact. So I need goo. So communicatron and goo and experiment control center. Oops. Undo. So that... Oh, I gotta redo it. Okay. Communicatron, goo, experiment. Photovoltaics. 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 Close this up. Nice. I don't think my lander legs are going to be... My struts... No, they don't reach. The engines are too big. I'll do a engine landing. This is totally fine. Additionally, I could also... That's a little service module. This is all about ship design. Oop, wrong one. I was also thinking of having an adapter down here and having a docking port at the bottom in case I want to dock on the other side. I also need inline reaction wheels, so that's something else I'm going to have to add. So there's docking port at the bottom, so I can dock on either end. Inline reaction for control, let's put it here. One of them there. We're also going to need a lot of battery storage. I'll put another reaction wheel there. So this is actually lower than the engines now, so I'm going to lower the engines a little bit. There we go. For a softer landing, and also easier to dock on the top. We will add some utility on the bottom here for lights, landing lights. 4 should be enough. This is the phase I'm landing on here. Which is a hell of a lot of fuel and thrust, which is fine. I'm okay with it. So let's go ahead and strut everything up to one another for stability. And as you could probably notice, this isn't staged or asparagus staged or anything like that because it has to, it's part of the space station requirement. So I'm not ditching this phase or anything. So that's all strutted up. Other thing I'm missing, power generation and that's pretty simple to do. And then power storage, which what I could do is have 4 copied batteries like this. This is an expensive craft. It's only 115 now, but this is actually the landing phase. So taking a look at this, let's do a quick launch. I know it's not controllable. All right, I will throw a scientist and an engineer in there so that it stops giving me that warning. Okay. So taking a look at the requirements, facility supports 60. Yeah, I don't have the required support yet, and I don't have an antenna, but I have the fuel and the monoprop. All right, so for the crew, right now we support how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I need to support more than that. What I was going to do is to have, let's use the robotic modules I have a thought. Might not be a good thought, but I have a thought. Let's, just for fun, try to add in, like, an automatic gravity type thing? Yeah. I'm gonna try that. All these servos seem to be colored differently than the last I checked, which means they definitely added in some cool coloring features and things like that. So the top here is no longer going to be my docking port, so I'm going to get rid of this. It'll be the bottom. So the idea that I had here is to have like a pseudo artificial gravity type thing going on here. Let's see what I need for that. A radial attachment point, maybe. Come on, let me attach. Let me just sloppily slap it down and see if this is what I'm going to be looking for. No, actually what I'm going to do is have this be even more convolutedly complicated than it needs to be. So, let's do the smallest hinge. Or maybe even a smaller hinge. That's a big hinge. And the idea here is to have this thing spin. Now, it'd be really cool if it was laid out like that. So let's try that. Although it's looking like a swastika, so that's... yeah, we'll scrap that. Hard scrap. We're Kerbals, not Nazis. Can that spin without colliding anything? It might be able to. We'll have to see. I'm gonna save and I'm gonna experiment. Now, of course, this doesn't actually function, like with artificial gravity and all, but it's the sort of concept of it. So the idea here is to give it a little torque. And yeah, that's pretty cool. Doesn't cost too much electric charge. Now let's do something ridiculous, which is to give it way too much torque. And it starts to fly out and fail. So we're obviously this should be colliding with one another, but brakes. I actually don't know how to brake this thing. Motor, turn the other way. There we go. You, I bet, would get very... that's like the rocket comet. What I want to try to do, let's try transferring crew from here to here and see what it looks like for whoever's in there. Ooh, that's nauseating. Well, it would provide, not artificial gravity, but vomit. But I think it actually looks pretty cool. And it actually functions as part of the ship if we want to launch with it. So that's very cool as well. Let's leave that in. That allows us to hit the necessary amount of inhabitants. So that's also good. So what I'm going to do is start to asparagus stage this stuff. So these decouplers, and then another series of giant fuel tanks, and then mainsails, or whatever has the most thrust. Yeah, my mainsails have the most thrust. Alright, the thrust weight ratio here is not enough. Alright, so all 5 of those engines going off will have enough thrust to weight. And then I'm going to want to symmetrically asparagus stage them, or we'll get off center. So this is going to go down, down. Actually, the first one should be the center one. Center and then the sides. Okay, so I'll strut it up in a second, but let's go ahead and fuel duct them. So center to which sides? These sides. Okay. This is gonna be ugly. Some ugly fuel ducting. I realize I'm burning the clock here. This was all ship design. Alright. And then these over to those. Sweet, I think. Now I'm going to have to strut them up individually because I don't have any symmetry on here the way I did my staging. Because it would either have been 4 symmetry staging or none. So I picked none so I could properly asparagus these guys. And then another thing I need to do is I'm ditching my center phase first. So these rockets here, they really need to be strutted to their opposites. But I don't think that's possible. I think the center rocket's going to get in the way. Okay, well, that makes me feel like the center rocket should be the last to stage, but we'll just see if this functions. Alright, what else? We need an antenna. Let's pretend I didn't forget about that. We'll just put a comically underpowered antenna at the top of this. And let me see if there's anything else I'm missing. I also want to count my monoprop fuel to make sure I'm not bringing any extra fuel. So we have 50 extra monoprop fuel, which I can ditch out of this tank. And all the other requirements are being met other than the fact that we're not on Minmus. Cool. And I'm just going to do a quick flight test. This isn't the real flight, to test the staging. But I want to get at least 2 kilometers up from the pad here, so I don't destroy my launch pad. That would be a costly mistake. Alright, that looks good enough. That was a really rough sort of staging, but it was fine. Alright, so now the last thing I want to do is to add some kickbacks to get this up into space, because this is one big honkin' ship that's going to be expensive to get on Minimus, or around Minimus first, and then eventually on Minimus. And unfortunately, the way I staged everything, I'm going to have to make a lot of kickbacks. I'm going to have to put these all down separately and strut them all up separately. Some Trying to remember roughly the height that I put them all at. So the center of thrust and the center of mass aren't all askew. Basically, design flaw 101. I don't think they need to be perfect as long as they're strutted and I'm centered on prograde. But we'll see. If it blows up in a glorious fire, I obviously made a miscalculation. Alright, so there's my kickbacks. Basically, essentially gluing them on. And then I gotta make sure that the staging is right on the right. If you look at how silly the ship looks... Yeah, actually the staging is correct. It just needs to be like that. Oh, this ship looks silly. So the first thing I'm trying to achieve is just like any sort of Minmus orbit. I don't even care what it looks like. Just at minimum fuel cost. And then I'll rendezvous a ship with it. So all I need to do is add the gantries and launch. Once I'm done strutting. And I might have to do a quick revert because I haven't like properly flight tested this thing yet. Okay, that's all set. Now the stability launch. I want to put it on the bottom of my big engines. But my big engines aren't agreeing to that. I don't think you'd ever do stability like this in real life, but whatever. Okay, where do all those stability staging go? All up into 2. Alright, my Delta V looks good. And the last thing I want to do, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 11, 15, 16, 17. The last thing I want to do is to hire a pilot. I don't want, because this crew's not coming back home. At least not for now. I can always send another crew up. But I want to hire a pilot to send with them. So here's a very stupid pilot that is going to go with them. Alright. Launch pad. Launching 15. Throwing in engineer, pilot, and scientist. Oh, you know what? Actually, there's one more change I want to make before I actually send this baby up. Is to add a little probe core. So that I can at least use some stability. Because this pilot is going to be fresh. And by that I mean the pilot won't know what they're doing. So the best probe core I've got here is this one. I don't. It doesn't really matter. I'm not asking the probe core to do very much. Antenna on the top. Save. Crew. Add my pilot in. And let's go for a launch. Now, given the time that I have, I might not be able to have a whole lot of time for the full mission. We'll have to see. This mission is just to get it into Kerbal or into Minmus orbit. Might actually do have time for that. What was my thrust to weight? Alright, I'm going to use a little less liquid. Bring my thrust weight down. Very, very, very loud ship. I'm sure as you all are aware at the moment. Intimately aware. Bringing my thrust weight down a little bit more. My center rocket is going to be drained before the sides, actually. So I'm staging that off early. Bye-bye, center rocket. I switched the staging on the fly. All the side boosters are gone. I haven't been tilting at all up until now. So I'm going to add a little bit of oomph, a little bit of gusto to this, and start tilting. I don't have any fins or anything, but we've broken all the thickest of the atmosphere here. My APO is 18K. This is a heavy ship. $25K. We're still climbing. Now, one of the advantages of having a scientist and an engineer is the scientist can set up the experiments, and the engineer can set up the solar power panels, and they will reap benefits from being set up from a specific class. Something I failed to do last mission. Alright, I'm going to add a little bit of spin to this so I can stage without collision. Oh boy, that was close. Now I thrust away. Oh, and wobbly, 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 wobbly. My thrust weight is almost up to 1. These are my, because I don't have the heavy, heavy, heavy lifting engines, this is the best I can field, the best I can do. We still have 20K liquid fuel on here. I didn't actually get rid of the monoprop, but 50 monoprop's not gonna break the bank. Our APO's almost at 70, we're at 60K now. And then for the circularization. $70K. I'm going to work on circularizing with my extraordinarily unstrutted, wobbly ship. But I don't know, it looks to be circularizing pretty good. Once I get this milestone out of the way of rendezvousing 2 ships in orbit of Minmus, I should be unlocking some more interesting ones. I'm not certain about that, but I think that's quite likely. Okay, so now we are on the last phase. So I'm going to plan the maneuver. And I really hope I have enough fuel left to actually accomplish a surface outpost. I could always transfer fuel through the docking port to this ship. With whatever ship docks with this thing. I think that was pretty cool. Definitely one of the more interesting looking ships I've built. With the spinning front. And you could have any stage spin. know what? Maybe I'll give it a little less torque. It seems a bit fast. We want like merry-go-round, not vomit comet. I might not have enough fuel. I have 9K left here. We'll have to keep an eye on that. But we're definitely orbiting now. Yep. And this is the bare minimum for an orbit. So the next thing I would do is want to rendezvous with Minmus, meaning I need to adjust my ascension node a little bit. It's not perfect. And everything here is going to cost me precious delta V. All right. Yeah, that looks about, maybe even less. I guess some sort of math whiz could probably calculate what my rotations per minute given the distance from the center should be to produce like 1G, but I'm not going to do that kind of math. And then, of course, anytime I time warp, it sort of just stops it. Alright, so now we are matching tilt. It's good enough. 1/10 of a degree off. And then the transfer burn. So I need to find where it is most efficient to do a transfer, because I need to save fuel if I am to complete this properly. So that's actually transfer burn to the Mun, but I want Minmus. So I'm trying to figure out, I'm going to warp time ahead a little bit. I'm trying to figure out the least amount of transfer burn for an intercept. About 900 meters per second is the best I probably will be able to do. With 7K liquid fuel left, it's doable, man, but I don't know. We'll have to see. Time will tell. And I think what I'll do is I'll put this into Minmus orbit so that next mission I can bring up a lot of fuel to this ship and refuel this station, and then of course land this baby. Any science I get is going to have to be transferred home and not actually returned home, because this thing is not... I guess it could re-enter if it has enough fuel. Oh, I'm not facing my maneuver, though. Because I could just do engine braking. Maybe that's something I can think about. If we want to bring this rocket home. It's not impossible. My thrust to weight ratio on Kerbal is well over 1, so we definitely have enough thrust on this thing to land back at Kerbal, providing it has fuel. So maybe that's what we should do, is send a refuel ship to sort of allow us to do that. We have dipped below our required liquid fuel, so we are going to need to be bringing a refueling tanker here in order to accomplish the goal of 6,000 liters, or whatever the unit of measurement is. Alright, there's my intercept. I'm going to warp and then circularize, and then we'll know roughly, we'll need at least Another 2,000 fuel. Oh, my electric charge just went kaput. Because we have a lot of things that draw power. I'm not worried, we have human operators, so the ship is still operable. I really overshot this badly. This is actually a terrible, terrible intercept. But it will have to do. I was just, felt strapped for time. But haste makes, whoa, makes waste. Okay, that will have to be my next maneuver, costing me about 300 more Delta V. If I want to be able to use my inline reaction wheels, the reason why they drained out like that, it was because I had SAS enabled while I time warped. So the ship was keeping stable with the reaction wheels, and cost me most of the power I had left. However, with these giant panels I have here, I'm generating like crazy amounts of power, so not so much an issue. My power is already full. Alright, so doing a deorbit or reorbit burn, a retrograde burn. There we go, that's good enough. And we have about 3.8k liquid fuel out of the 6k that we require. Okay. So that's about all the time I have for this episode, guys. So if you have any questions for me, feedback of any type, drop me a line. Next mission will be to rendezvous with this craft, and then refuel it, and then land it on Minmus for the mission. And yeah, the rest will be history. So thank you all for watching. I hope you tune in next time. If you like this, like, subscribe, maybe share it with a friend. If you'd like to chat about it, Discord is the place to be, and I'll catch you all next time. Adios.